In this example, I want to take a look at SwiftUI and specifically a couple of features within SwiftUI that allow us to navigate and how that works. So kind of the navigation that is going to replace our segues. And then also I want to look at kind of a master details look at things. So I'm going to create a new Xcode project, and it's going to be a SwiftUI project. And my SwiftUI my project name is going to be Master Details. And what I want to do with Master Details is I want to create a list of items, and that'll kind of be on our main page, so within our content view. And then I want to be able to make those clickable, and we can navigate over to a details page. In order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and grab some images. So I'm just going to go out to Google image search, and I'm just going to search for a couple of things. So I'm going to look for a brewer's hat. Okay, so I'm just making kind of a Christmas list. So I'll grab a brewer's hat, and I'll just grab this one right here. So I'll save that image, and I'm going to save it as a hat. It's a JPEG image. And then I want maybe AirPods Pro. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that image as AirPods. And then I want new sunglasses. Okay, and I'm just going to save that image. Okay, and really the idea here is that I'm going to use these three things as kind of like a Christmas list. That's just kind of the application I want to build. And first things first is this automatic preview. I'm going to go ahead and hide the canvas. And what I want to do is I want to display those elements. And in order to display those elements, I'm going to have an object that's going to represent those elements. So I'm going to have a new group, which will be my models. And specifically, I want to have a struct that's going to represent one of those items. So I'm just going to have a Swift file, and I'm going to call it thing. So like a list of things is essentially what I'm trying to build. And the way I want to handle this list of things is I want to create a struct called thing. And the way the thing is going to work is it's going to have a couple of attributes. So it's going to have a name, a description, and an image. So I'll have a variable called name, which will be a string. Variable description, which will also be a string, and then an image URL, which will also be a string. Okay, those are the three things that my struct will have. And what I want to do is I want to create a couple of things. So we have three things based on the images that I've downloaded, and I want those images to be part of my project. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to put that into my assets folder. So I'm going to go out to my desktop, and I have these images, and I'm going to drag those into my assets folder. Okay, and you'll see I have sunglasses, my brewer's hat, and the AirPods. Okay, and those are the names that I'm going to use to refer to those things. Okay, so if I go back over to my content view, what I'm really going to do is I want to have a collection of things. So I'm going to have a collection of things, and what I want to do is I want a state variable called things, which is going to be an array of thing objects, which is really equal to this array. And then I'm going to create a couple of thing objects. So I'll use that initializer. So the name will be sunglasses. The description, cool sunglasses for summer. And the image URL is going to be sunglasses. Okay, and I don't have a file extension there. And then I should be able to just copy that and use that for the other things. Okay, so I have sunglasses, I have a hat, brewer's hat, and then the image URL will just be hat. And then the last one was AirPods, and the description will be AirPod Pro. And AirPods. Okay, so I have this collection of things that I ultimately want to render in my body. Okay, so I don't want this text. What I want to do is I want to render all of my things, and you'll see that I have a return type, but there are no return types. So what I want to do is I want to create a navigation view. And the way the navigation view is going to work is basically I want to go through all of these things. So I want to loop through them, and I want to put them into a list. Okay, so I want to create a list from these things. And the way this works is basically it's kind of like a loop. It's going to loop through and create almost like a table view if we're comfortable with I'm drawing a blank on the name of the previous library, not SwiftUI, but storyboards. So just having a UI table view controller. Okay, so what I want is a collection of things, and I'm going to say each thing in that collection should then look like what shows up here down below. Okay, and you'll notice I'm getting an error saying the initializer row content requires thing to conform to the identifiable. Whenever you get that something conforms to, really what it's saying is that in order to be in this list, it has to conform to a specific protocol. Okay, so that's fairly easy to do. So what we're going to do is go back over to our model and say that it conforms to the identifiable protocol. And all that means is it has to have a unique ID. So typically what I will do is I'll just say that it's equal to this unique identifier. And that allows it to satisfy that identifiable protocol. Okay, so that's my struct now. It's changed, and ID is going to be automatically generated as a unique ID. So we go back over to our content view, and now what should happen is this error should go away. And what I want to do is I'm just going to, for the time being, I'm just going to create a text field which shows the thing's name. Sorry, not this dot name, thing dot name. Okay, and if I've done this correctly, I should be able to run this, and I should be able to choose my device. So I'm going to use an iPhone 11, and I'm just going to go ahead and run it. And that'll bring up the simulator. And the idea here is that I should have a list of my things, and each one of my things, I'm just going to render the name. So sunglasses, hat, and AirPods. And eventually what we'll see is that we have a list view. Okay, so here's sunglasses, hat, AirPods. What I want to do is I want to actually render out content here. So my list, instead of just having the thing.name, what I want to do is I want to have kind of an image that is displayed, and then maybe the text and the description as well. But I want to make it clickable so that I could go on to a more complex screen, a details view. Okay, so right now we're just rendering the text. Okay, so what I want to do is I actually want to render out not just the text, but I want to render out an image. And the way the image is going to work is I'm going to pass in a URL. So in our case, I'm going to use the thing.image URL. And what will end up happening is the size will look funny. So it'll render the image, but the size is going to look quite funny. Okay, and these images are actually not bad images for showing up on the white screen. It looks like they're all about the same size. So I'm getting kind of lucky with the image size. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to change this around just a little bit. I'm going to say that the image is resizable. And then what I want to do is I want to create a frame where I'm setting the width and the height to some fixed value. And I'll do that. And then I'm going to give them rounded corners. I'm going to give them a corner radius of 15. Okay, so now I have that fixed size frame for all of the images. And you'll see that I'm not getting a corner radius because I have that white background. But I just wanted to kind of show that. There's other attributes that I could apply, so accent color, all sorts of things that I can do. I could clip this to a specific shape. And you'll see that all of these images then show up in a circle or an ellipse or a rectangle I've seen used. Okay, and again, with the white background, I don't know that that's necessarily great. What I could do is I could say that I want to change the, let's say I want to change the body color. I just want to change the color. And I wonder if I'll see the, so now I shouldn't be on a light background, and you'll see that I'm clipped into those circles. Okay, so we're clipping to that specific shape. I could use other shapes here, so I could use ellipses. And I'm not getting an ellipse, am I? One thing I could do, instead of having to stop and restart this all the time, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the canvas so we can actually see this. And I'm going to resume it. And then we should see the updates in real time. Okay, so right now we have this set as an ellipse, which is not that different compared to our circle. I'm going to go ahead and make it a rectangle. Okay, and you'll see now I have those rounded corners. If I didn't clip to a shape, so I took that away, we'd still have our corner radius. I can change that corner radius to 1, and you'll notice that the corner radius is really small. If I change it to 10, it gives me those rounded edges. Okay, so we can have an image. And then what I want to do is I want to have the image, and then I want to have some text over to the right of that. I want to have the description, and I want to have, so the name and the description. So the name first, and then the description. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is, let me resize this just a little bit. I'll scale this down just a little bit. Give myself some more screen real estate. This is how I want to be working. What I want to do is I want to embed these images inside of an H stack. So I want a horizontal stack, and the images will be embedded inside of there. So I'm going to indent that. And then horizontally next to the image, I'm going to have text, where I'll take the thing.name and output that. So now you'll see sunglasses. And what I want to do is underneath sunglasses and hat and AirPods, what I want to do is I want to give the description. So actually the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to say the text is actually thing.name, and then below it I want to have text equal thing.description. And you'll see that it's not falling below it, it's falling over to the right of it. And the reason why is because we're inside of a horizontal stack. What I want is the text stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to use a vertical stack for the two text elements. and that'll stack them on top of each other. And if I want to change the alignment, I can change the alignment of the stack. So I can use leading, I think is the, and then I'm going to, I think, I don't actually need all of that stuff. I think I just need the alignment. Oops. There we go. So now I have that vertical stack for the text. We still don't have our navigation link. So what I would like to do is I'd like to be able to click on any one of these items. So I would like to be able to click on AirPod Pro or brewer's hat or sunglasses, and maybe I get additional details. So right now our struct, all of our data, so the image, the name, the description is all getting rendered. Ideally what I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to click on that and go into a details view, and ideally the details view would then show additional details like where do I buy it from, what's the cost, and obviously my struct would have to have additional details. What I want to do is I'm going to create another view, which is going to be the details view of this thing. Okay, so this thing is getting rendered out right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to command click on that H stack, and what I can do is you can see there's a couple of options, but what I want to do is I want to extract that as a subview. Okay, so I'm rendering out a thing within the list, so I'm going to extract that out as a subview. And you'll see it's calling it extracted view. I'm going to call that my thing list view item. Okay, and you'll see it's complaining about it can't find thing in scope. So I have to modify this a little bit, and what you'll see is that this is really just a struct. So what I can do is I can say this struct is going to have some variable called thing, which is of type thing. And you'll see that it takes care of the variable scoping. But when I create an instance of that thing list view item, I have to pass in the thing now in order for it to keep working. Okay, so I've extracted that subview. And what I want to do is I actually want to make this clickable, and the way I'm going to do that is inside of a navigation view I have a list, and what I want to do is really make all of those thing list view items a navigation link. So I'm going to create a navigation link, and what you'll see is that I really want a destination and a label. So this is the constructor that I'm looking for, is this one right here. So the destination that I want is going to be the thing details view, and I don't have that yet, so that's to come. I haven't created that yet. It's going to be a new struct. And then the label is really the content that should show up. So that's going to be this thing list view item. This is the content that's going to be clickable. Okay, so I like to think of this as, like, if I'm thinking of this navigation link, so this is the navigation link, I like to think of it almost like an A tag with an href equal to, this would be the destination, right? So whatever goes in this href, and then the text that goes inside of here that gets displayed to the user is going to be this label. Okay, so this is the, like, these dashes right here is the label, the destination is where am I actually going. That's how the navigation's provided. Okay, it's not exactly a one-for-one match, but it's pretty close. So I need this thing details view, and the thing details view I'm going to go ahead and create right now. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file, and it'll be a SwiftUI view that I'm going to call thing details view. Okay, and in order to render the thing details view, I'm going to need a thing. And then I just have to determine how I want to render it. So the way I'm going to render it is I'm just going to have kind of a big image. So I'm going to have an image that takes the thing, and I go to the image URL, and what I want to do this time is I will still make it resizable, and I will still apply rounded corners. So I'll have that corner radius of 10, and then I'm going to set the aspect ratio to fit. Okay, and you'll notice that it's complaining it's missing an argument for a thing. So I can't actually preview this. So one thing I could do is I could get rid of the preview. However, if I wanted this to work, really what it's saying is I just need to pass a thing in order to see what the thing details view is ultimately going to look like. So I can just create a thing. So I don't know why it's asking for an ID. I need a name, so I'll use hat, description, brewers, hat, and then the image URL will be hat. And then what should happen is I should be able to resume this, and I should be able to see what the details look like. Okay, and you'll notice I'm getting an error. This error is not necessarily from my preview for the thing details view. This error is over here when I try to show my thing details view, and what's happening is I have to actually forward on the thing that I want to render, and I'm missing the label. Okay, and now if I go back over to my thing details view, what we should see is that we can now build it, and we should see a preview of what the details view screen is going to look like. And right now we have this image that's kind of a full-sized image. Maybe above it I want to have the name, and below it I want to have the description. So I will have a VStack, and I'll include this image inside the VStack. And above it I will have text, which will be the thing's name. And below it I will have text, which is the thing's description. Okay, so I got hat and brewer's hat. Okay, and now if I go back over to my content view, I'm just going to move this file around because it makes sense to have our content view and our details view next to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And you'll notice that now there is a navigation link, and you'll see that I have this disclosure indicator. So I want cool sunglasses for a summer, and here's my sunglasses, or my brewer's hat, or my AirPod Pro. And you'll notice the navigation is not quite what we're used to. So I just have this back button. Maybe what I want to do is I want to call this my wish list, right? So what I'm going to do is I have this navigation view, and the navigation view is really this list. So what I can do is on that list I can set a navigation title. So the way I'm going to set this is I'm going to say I want the color scheme of dark, and then I want a navigation title with some text being my wish list. And if I resume this, you'll see that the title ends up showing up. Not sure why it didn't show up, but you'll notice it does show up here. I think what's happening is because I'm in dark mode, the default text color is black and it's not showing up. So one last thing I want to show you with this application is, let's say I'm in this label, which is really a content view, and I want to output some new stuff. You'll see all the options that I have. Okay, and the way I'm getting there is I'm just clicking on this plus sign. So because I'm inside the label, I have some options available to me about what I can and cannot do. So I'm going to go ahead and click in here, and you can see all of the different options. I can also go into the modifiers. So for instance, I might want to change the color or the contrast or the corner radius or the foreground color. So specifically, I want to change the foreground color on my navigation title. Okay, so what I could do is I could take this foreground color and apply it right here. And let me go ahead and resume that. And it looks like it's applying to the entire list, not to my navigation title. I'm not sure why I can't. Let me try to set that foreground color on the navigation view itself. And I'm not sure why I can't see the title. So I'm changing from dark mode to light mode, but I want to change that navigation title's foreground color. And I'm running into some issues with it. So that's news to me that I'm having trouble with the navigation title and why I can't change the color. One other thing I could do is if I bring back the attributes, sorry, not the split screen, the attributes window. I keep hitting the same thing. I want the attributes window, and I think it's I want the inspector. And I'm looking at the navigation title. Okay, so here's the navigation title. I want to add a modifier. What I want to do is I want to add foreground color. And so it's showing as foreground color of blue, but that's for the entire list. So you'll see it's picking up the list, but I really want it to be the navigation title. I guess I don't know how to change that navigation title's foreground color, which is annoying, but a reality here. Okay, so this is kind of our master details view application and how we'd build that out if we were going to use SwiftUI as opposed to a storyboard-based application. Okay, and we're getting into some navigation, and then we're also getting into, how do I actually break up my application into multiple files? So we have a model file, we have a DetailsView file, we've actually, in the content view, we even split out the list views elements so that they have kind of their own class and display. So I could decide to change it. Really an extensible way to write code after coming from the storyboard side of things.